Hello, my name is Jim Carney. I'm an assistant professor of journalism and media studies at Lehman College. That's part of the City University of New York, and we're located in the legendary Bronx in New York City. My presentation today, Teaching Journalism in a Post-Truth Era, Case Studies in Combating Disinformation, Practical Examples of Positioning Journalists to Report in Environments Hostile to Facts and Truth, is actually the second part of research into this area. Last year, I presented a panel discussion with journalism educators and journalists exploring the problem itself. With this presentation and with the paper that I'm preparing, and you'll see the beginnings of the research today, I hope to look at specific examples and different resources that are available to journalists to help combat fake news. But what's a simpler name for the presentation I have today that sums up in more common language? What you might say we're talking about here is bullshit detection. I apologize for the vulgarity, but it's a vulgarity that's been used in relations to truth, lying, and misinformation for centuries. In fact, there are varying definitions according to different philosophers in different trains of philosophical history. But for our purposes, let's look at a popular culture version. We could go back into ancient philosophical conversations to find different definitions of BS. But let's keep on a more popular culture footing in terms of what we're going to be talking about. Philosopher Harry G. Frankfurt published in 2005 a small book, basically, that summarizes his pop culture definition of what bullshit is. It was, appropriately enough, called On Bullshit. To quote Frankfurt, bullshit is speech intended to persuade without regard for truth. And that's what we'll use going forward in terms of what BS actually is.
Back at the 6th International Conference of Communication and Media Studies that took place virtually through Toronto, a group of distinguished journalism educators and former journalists got together to discuss exactly what they thought was necessary to help combat fake news and to help young journalists to go out into the field and combat false information and misinformation. Distinguished former journalists and Fordham University visiting professor Ellen Fleischer summed up some of the challenges that she felt were facing journalism educators today.
There's no waving of a magic wand here. Unfortunately, there is no quick fix for fake news. Awareness is step one. And on heels of that, improving one's ability to identify and correct false information is a must. You know the expression, everything old is new again? Fact checking must be an integral component of journalism education. Original sourcing, learn how to read documents. Identifying and cultivating reliable sources is another. Encouraging skepticism is a third. If it sounds suspicious, it probably is. The important work of journalism educators is in the development of young people who are dedicated to achieving a safer news environment for the news consuming public. This is a huge job, and everyone deserves luck and fortitude.
Despite the fact that disinformation and so-called fake news is all in the news these days, it's not new. Founded back in 1975, the Poynter Institute started to train journalists on different elements as simple as fact-checking and the importance of sourcing and making sure that facts were present and consistently followed up in journalism. Poynter has grown over the years to become one of the foremost organizations and institutions on journalism ethics in the United States and around the world. Poynter is truly the ethical conscience of journalism. Their motto, democracy needs journalism and journalism needs pointer. One of the more innovative programs featured through the Pointer Institute is MediaWise. According to the organization, MediaWise empowers people of all ages to become more critical consumers of content online. They reach out to various age groups ranging from teenagers to senior citizens with innovative programs that feature technology and straightforward information sharing. The programs are truly unique. One of MediaWise's unique programs is the Teen Fact-Checking Network. It's a virtual newsroom made up of teens from around the United States who use social media and other sources to debunk misinformation and share tips. And they do it for other teen journalists and college newsrooms across the country. In 2020, the program was named a verified signatory of the International Fact-Checking Network's Code of Principles, a truly unique program aimed at young people by young people.
To sign up for the tutorial yourself, just shoot this QR code, or you can call the phone numbers, and sign up for the 7-day tutorial. It's a fun way to get your mindset straight in being skeptical, and as Professor Fleischer said earlier in the presentation, to say, says who? Once again, it's the MediaWise Fact Check tutorial. And now turning to some case studies. We start internationally with the Cultural Vistas program. Cultural Vistas was started by the German government as a cooperative venture to train students both from Europe and from the United States to travel around to different cities and news organizations and learn about how misinformation is infecting and basically deteriorating democratic culture. Students take what they learn, take it back to their own neighborhoods, their own communities, and their own news organizations, and put it to work. The Cultural Vistas Student Exchange Program is called the Journalism in an Era of Disinformation Fellowship. In 2019, Irene Franco Rubio took the program, and she summed up her thoughts in AZ Central, a publication of the USA Network from Arizona. She said, "Through this fellowship, I not only recognize the crucial role the media plays, but also the influence we as individuals have on society by the content we consume, the opinions we formulate, and the topics we discuss." Irene is currently a freelance reporter in the Southwest of the United States, an organizer, and an advocate. From international diplomacy to down and dirty curriculum. Calling bullshit data reasoning in a digital world is a full-service curriculum set up to be used in classrooms throughout the country. Interestingly, calling bullshit was not developed by journalists. Assistant Professor Jevin West, who is an information technologist, and Carl Bergstrom, a professor of biology, are the two people who put this together at the University of Washington. It's a full-service curriculum complete with videos, with examples and case studies, and most recently, a best-selling book that was released. The objectives of the course, like the course itself, are straightforward. To remain vigilant for bullshit contaminating your information diet, to recognize said bullshit whenever and wherever you encounter it, to figure out for yourself precisely why a particular bit of bullshit is bullshit, to provide a statistician or fellow scientist with a technical explanation of why a claim is BS, and to provide your crystals and homeopathy aunt or casually racist uncle with an accessible and persuasive explanation as to why a claim is bullshit.
This is the first few minutes of the first program of the lecture series, which again uses the shock value of the word to attract the attention of students. but it basically lays out very clearly the environment in which they're presenting the program.
There is so much bullshit. So much bullshit. So much bullshit everywhere. We're drowning in it. Drowning in bullshit. So many reasons, right? Politicians are unconstrained by the facts these days, it seems. Science, my area, is conducted by press release more than it is carried out in the journals. Higher education, if you don't know this by now, you guys are seniors, higher education rewards bullshit over analytic thought. Startup culture, we're here on the West Coast. Startup culture has become sort of an elevation of bullshit to high art. A generation ago, advertisers fed us bullshit straight up, just plain bullshit. Now, here's just plain bullshit. But now it's more subtle. Now they use irony as this sort of Trojan horse. They invite us to join them. They kind of wink and say, oh, laugh along with us at all the bullshit. And so we wink and we laugh along at all the bullshit. And then our guard goes down. And then they slip second order bullshit in underneath all of that, right? Administrative activity. Administrative activity basically amounts to a sophisticated exercise in the combinatorial reassembly of bullshit. These days, Americans spend nearly an hour a day on Facebook. Doing what? Mostly spreading bullshit. Enough! Enough bullshit! We are tired of this.
From Germany to the west coast of the United States, back to my home in the Bronx. Lehman recently teamed up with City Limits, an online political newspaper whose motto is investigating the city and empowering communities. We teamed up on a number of different projects, and one of them takes on one of those icons or one of those legends I mentioned at the beginning of our discussion. Anyone who has gone into a gift shop in any major airport anywhere in the world is likely to have run across a stand with a baseball cap in it with the New York Yankees logo. The Bronx is possibly best known around the world for one of the biggest sports franchises in the world, the New York Yankees. The Yankees spend a lot of money and effort in building up their image as a good community member, as a neighbor, and as an overall great corporation doing business in New York City and around the world. However, some of the students at Lehman College either work or know people that work at Yankee Stadium. And when they saw all of this great image building that the Yankees were putting out there, they were wondering, is this fake news too? So with the help of City Limits, they started to dig. To make a long story short, back in the late 1990s, the Yankees approached the city of New York with a plan to build a new stadium that would be paid completely by non-tax dollars and would not cost the residents of the Bronx or New York State or anywhere any additional funds. It would be cost-free, and there would be all sorts of great give-backs to the community, from parks to jobs to business support and to contributions to local organizations.
The New York Yankees spend millions of dollars every year to try and cultivate an image of a responsible community partner in the Bronx. Many Lehman students actually work at the stadium or know somebody that works at the stadium, and they come across with different images and have very different opinions of the Yankee organization. But what people don't realize is that dating back to the late 1990s, a fierce battle about a new stadium was being fought. The Yankees said that the stadium could be built at no cost to New York City taxpayers, and that this glowing new stadium would be a jewel for the community of the Bronx, a center of employment and cultural activity for the entire area. Was that to actually take place? Some of the students were wondering, so they actually took up the question, are the Yankees full of BS? In conjunction with City Limits and the journalism program at Lehman College, the students actually hit the streets and did some investigative reporting as to exactly what kind of neighbors the Yankees are and what happened to those promises about the new stadium and all the great things that would happen to the Bronx. Here's an excerpt of the podcast that was a result of their investigative journalism.
As I said earlier, this is the second part of my research, the first part being the panel discussion of educators that was held last year. This second part, which will result in the paper, includes, number one, to continue to develop clarity on defining various types of BS or fake news and how it's distributed and the impacts it has on communities, to identify examples of techniques and systems used to instruct students, as effectively case studies, and its effect on the consuming public as well. To share this information through publication as well as distributing it to educational institutions, and then finally to develop strategies and assessment tools to measure the effectiveness of these programs and to let folks know what works best and what doesn't seem to work. Once again, my name is Jim Carney. I'm an assistant professor of journalism and media studies at Lehman College, City University of New York. I hope you found my presentation interesting. Here are some of the links, the significant links from the presentation. For a full bibliography, please contact me at james.carney@lehman.cuny.edu or by text at 1-914-424-0434. Once again, thank you and have a pleasant day.